Good morning. This is Tamara Buchan from Reclaim Initiative. Today is Friday, October 8th, 2020. We are on day 25 as we prepare and pray. I'm going to introduce a change of seasons today and want to start with Ecclesiastes 3. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh. Verse 10 says this, Yet God made everything beautiful in its own time. He planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. We started off this decade with 2020 vision, and I love that thought. It's great to be able to see clearly, but most of the time, our vision is blocked by various things. Right now, I'm looking at a wall and a window that has blinds on it, so my vision of what's outside is skewed. I can't see very far. That's a lot like how we live on a day-to-day basis, but when we align with God and accept His invitation to see things from His vantage point, then we begin to see things with greater clarity, much like an eagle can see with binocular eyes and fly very high and come down to hunt easily because of the eagle eyesight that it has. Well, we want to have 2020 vision from the Lord's perspective. So going back to the change of decade, as the calendar ticked over to 2020, people were celebrating, saying, this is my year, this is my decade, everything's going to converge for me. But I entered 2020 with a sobered spirit and with a bit of a sense of dread, because early in December, the Lord told me, enjoy Advent, enjoy Christmas, enjoy this month, because 2020 is going to be a very difficult year. I heard that, but I had no idea what it was going to look like. Well, January was pretty normal and stable. And in February, Bill and I got to end the month by going to Hawaii, which was just fabulous looking back at the timing. Because on March 11th, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 an international pandemic, and everything changed. Everything stopped. The world shut down. Suddenly, we were stuck in our houses, separated from other people. Entertainment stopped. The NBA stopped playing. Baseball never started. Movie theaters have been closed down for months. Concerts stopped. We lived by Red Rocks Amphitheater, and it only had in-car movies most of the summer. It was not used. Churches started meeting over Zoom. Essential workers carried enormous stress. Economies crashed, and we began to watch the death count rise. Right now, we're struggling with academia, seeking to send kids back to school. Can you imagine being a college student right now and struggling because of how they're being limited socially? That's such a big part of college. Are you depressed yet? Many of us are isolated, depressed, anxious, disoriented. That's very normal with the massive shift that we're going through. But this season demands that we ask the question, what does this season mean? And what is God doing in the midst of it? What if I told you that we have something so glorious to look forward to? It's beyond anything that we can currently imagine. We are experiencing the birth pangs of a whole new season of history being birthed. I call it the Kingdom Age. Others call it other things, but the reality is that it's a very real transition, and it's on a transitional scale of the difference between the Jewish faith before Jesus and the Jewish faith after Jesus. When Jesus came, He changed everything. When the kingdom is birthed, it changes everything. But the reality is, for a new season to break in, the old season must deconstruct. Think of it this way. Just over 100 years ago, the fastest mode of transportation and most reliable for people was a train occasionally, but a horse and buggy. Most people got around either by walking or riding their horse or attaching it to a buggy, and it was slow going. You couldn't go very far in a day. But then the automobile was invented, and then airplanes. And then in 1968, we sent people to the moon. Can you imagine in 1900 that we could never have imagined that we would put people on the moon and send rocket ships to Mars? So we can't imagine in 2020 what this kingdom age is going to be like. We can't imagine the shift, but we can experience in 2020 the reality of how swiftly it is taking place. For years, the Lord said, I'm going to deconstruct things in a day. And I could never imagine what that was going to be like. But now I see how all things came together, and we're in the midst of a massive deconstruction that is hard to walk through. As you vote and prepare for the 2020 election, my encouragement is for you to keep your eyes on the longer term picture. Don't just think now. Don't just think getting out of this discomfort so I can go back to my normal life. I'm not sure that normal's ever going to return. But as we keep our eye on the long-term picture from God's vantage point, we can step into the reality of what Paul tells us in Ephesians 3:20. Never doubt God's mighty power to work in you and accomplish all this. He will achieve infinitely more than your greatest request, your most unbelievable dream, and exceed your wildest imagination. He will outdo them all, for his miraculous power constantly energizes you. There it is. This is the time for you to dream. This is the time for us to let our imagination be sparked by God's Spirit and to tap into what he's envisioning for us, because he has promised to achieve infinitely more than your greatest request. Don't be afraid to ask, for God will bring it. Your most unbelievable dream. Maybe you've put those dreams aside. Now's the time to get them out and exceed your wildest imagination. Let your imagination run, for God is in it, and he longs to bring us into the kingdom age. I'm going to be saying more about this week, but for today, take some time to breathe, to realize that this season will pass, and that what we have to look forward to is far greater than anything we have ever experienced or could ever imagine. Amen. Have a great day.